Today's episode is brought to you by Lawn Culture Australia, an innovative new lawn rewards club launching on June the 1st. You can win things like cylinder mowers, rotary mowers, lawn care prize packs. I'll tell you more about that later in the podcast. All right, well, welcome to today's episode of the
Thanks very much.
Podcast.
Good to be here.
I'm very impressed by how beautiful you have made such a small area. Inviting is the word.
Yeah. We entertain quite a bit. So to have a little space, especially with the big bifold doors, is it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And they say a painter's house is never painted. But so there's always work to do in a gardener's house. You know, I'm constantly out here tinkering. And
well, as I was walking up and seeing the outside and stuff, I was like, no, this is nice. I was wondering about that.
yeah.
You know, there's a lot of people in the gardening industry do so much gardening themselves.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the last thing I want to do is...
It depends if I've been out the night before on the weekend, whether or not I'm hungover. Usually I sort of look out here and I go, oh, I can't be bothered.
Yeah.
But I love what I do, and I find it incredibly sort of meditative and good for my emotional health. And so the more time I can spend out in the garden, especially at home, I think I'm very house proud, and keeping it clean and, you know, saving plants from different jobs that I've got, and I never like to throw those out. So, you know, bring things back to life, trialing things. Does that work? Does this work before I take it into a design or before I take it into a garden? It's very good. And there was no real garden here before. The old owner had a dog and a young kid, and then did spend much time at the garden. So I've pretty much been reaching out and started again. So it's good. I love it. It's great.
And I have to say, it's a use of AstroTurf I like.
Yeah, I don't like using AstroTurf, but because of him,
And how much energy you have.
and I don't have, you know, to grow a good lawn, you need at least 8 to 10 to 12 hours, you know, full wax sun. And it's compacted, this soil, it needs a lot of work. You know, there's no access to bring a mower in, and it's just too much work.
I just feel like when you get to a point where you have to have paving, then AstroTurf becomes an option.
Yeah.
But when you have a real lawn, it is very frustrating. You got a full sun front yard, just domestically.
Yeah.
Someone's AstroTurfed it.
No, I don't want him. Like, I don't want to... He needs a comfortable spot to sit in the sun, but this is good because it's pinned down only on the outside, so I can... If it starts to smell, which is a big issue when you have pets with AstroTurf, this is sort of a newer... it's sort of a newer material where it's heavily perforated. It's meant to be sort of dog urine friendly, which I don't know how they do that. But every so often, maybe once a month, I'll peel it back, give it a good wash, let it air out, and then pin it back.
Yeah.
But if it was probably... I'm looking at maybe pebbling it and making more garden. Anyway, so, you know, the fact of the matter is, the plunge pool's ridiculous because I never use it, and it's taking up a lot of space. If I had that, I'd probably do more garden, but this is the best use of space that I can come up with, and I like it much better than pebbles. So yeah.
So let's talk about your story. Mm-hmm. A lot of people see your style of video.
Yeah.
Have you ever talked in a video?
No, and I rarely show my face. Humphrey, he's the reason, well, I don't like to say all the reason why I've got a successful Instagram or social media, but he's a big part of it. And I did for a while start doing sort of plant education, and this is how you do this and this is how you do that. I don't think people really want to see that. There's definitely room for it.
Yeah.
But that's not me.
Well, Instagram's the visual side, which is like nailed.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe YouTube or a platform like that might be more where people want to be educated.
Yeah.
So even then that's what this kind of video is for.
Yeah.
Especially podcasts. Yeah, people listen and they'll just get as much information as possible. But
yeah, I mean, I'm doing a lot more sort of radio and a bit more TV, and there's stuff in the pipeline for that education side of it.
Yeah.
But it comes from my Instagram. I think the Instagram that I've sort of created, my sort of brand, if you will, is, how do I explain it? A lot of people go onto Instagram and you're bombarded with sort of 3 different things. You've got someone doing makeup or look at me or bikini shots or fashion, or it's very sort of that. And then there's this motivational thing where you get on, it's top 10 tips of weight loss or this, and it's just so much in your face. And then you'll come across one of my reels and it's very chill music. I'll put a little bit of the ambient sound in from the video, raking, blowing, the snipping of the whatever it is. But I rarely show my face. I'm not selling anything. I'm not trying to gain your attention. It's just quite a therapeutic thing. And I think that's why, and it's quite long form for Instagram.
Oh, yeah.
Reels are, on average between 7 and 14 seconds. They're the ones that are achieving the most likes and views. Whereas mine sit around on average between sort of maybe 35 and 55 seconds. And a lot of people watch it to the end, which is a good indication that you're getting that, you're getting the eyes.
You're almost like a visual palette, audio palette cleanser.
Yeah.
Loud, noisy.
Most of the feedback that I get, most of the comments are, I find this so therapeutic to watch, or, I love your videos, or I love your dog, or whatever. But it's that rest for the eyes and the ears and from the other stuff that's slammed down your throat on Instagram.
I've spent a lot of time clicking, I don't want to see this, on all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, me too.
I was saying on a previous podcast that I on my personal account, I follow some swimmers, professional athlete swimmers.
Yeah.
And I think that, because I wasn't getting it on my business account, but I think that because it was like, oh, you follow some swimmers, it's like, you want women in bikinis.
Yeah.
And it's just like, not really.
I know.
And so you skip.
Sometimes we'll be talking about getting a new toaster in the kitchen, and then I'll sit down on the couch, check Instagram, and I'm Breville's all over my algorithm.
Yeah.
And I don't...
Breville with a lady in a bikini.
Yeah. Some bird cooking toast. No, look, I love setting up... It depends on the client, whether or not they want their garden on Instagram. I never show what street we're on. I rarely show any brands. I rarely show my face. And I think that's because my followers don't really want that. They want to see a time lapse. They want to see a beginning and an end. They want to see a beautiful garden. They, of course, want to see my dog. And I keep it pretty simple. My formula is pretty simple across the board. And it's just gone ballistic.
Well, I think I've been following you from my business account for maybe 2 years.
Awesome.
And I don't know how I came across you, probably just the algorithm.
Yeah.
I was like, I like this. Your style is very much sort of, a lot of the plants you pick would be what I would pick.
Yeah.
My own yard, I think I commented the other day, like, Leary Oak was one of my favourites because it's just bulletproof.
Yeah.
And the dark green, I love dark green leaves.
It's around the area that we work, Stonington, Stonington's a council of about sort of, let's say 20 suburbs, and it's southeast of Melbourne, and it's quite a wealthy, affluent sort of council with a lot of suburbs, and the palette is definitely cream and green.
Yeah.
Colour's not really a thing. Yeah. You get the odd cottage garden. You get the odd client that likes, sort of a bit of flare of red or orange, or sort of I'm trying to slowly start introducing sort of bluish hues and greys, but really right across the board, it's glossy greens and creams, whites, and that palette of plants.
Is there a plant you're sick of putting in?
Gardenias. Yeah. I mean, they're hardy. They're probably better in a pot than a lot of people. Put them in a garden. They don't do much soil work, and they'll die off pretty quickly. But gardenias...
What about a Xanadu?
A Xanadu, yeah, sure. There's succulents I'm sick of. They're good in a particular sort of garden, but there was that sort of late 90s, early noughties sort of succulent thing. I don't do a lot of bayside, so, high sandy soils.
Yeah.
That's an area where you'd use succulents and you'd use yuccas and that sort of thing.
Oh, yuccas.
But we're very...
Yuccas and agaves, oh my God.
Oh, nah. Yeah, nah. But we're very blessed with soil quality around here.
Right.
Because not a lot of people... it's a big sort of Italian and Greek communities which did a lot of soil treatment, a lot of composting. They had a lot of fruit trees and vegetative and productive gardens. And now they're being bought by young families, and they're doing we install gardens in that soil that has been tilled and properly managed and composted. So we've got a fairly good sandy loam around here,
Right.
which opens up your palette of plants that you can use. Whereas the other ends of the spectrum, the heavy clay or the heavy sand, that's when you really start need to really look at what plants you can use without doing much soil treatment.
Yeah. Do you have to fertilise much to get the results? Or?
Yeah, every year. Yeah. Every year we have a pretty consistent structure of the year, where late winter. Now we're doing the heavy pruning, and after that heavy pruning segment, most of our new gardens going in winter, so they get time to settle before the spring.
Yeah.
And the harsh November to March, we don't do any new gardens. We won't put a plant into the ground just because it's such a risk of getting that hot snap of that 43, 42, 41.
Do you have a lot of irrigation systems here? Or?
Yeah, so I completely dislike dripper systems.
Yeah, okay.
Because basically you're just bleeding out from a small hole and you get to, a foot either side, and you're getting 2 litres an hour out of every one of those holes. Yeah. They were good during water restrictions in 2002 and 2006 or whenever we had them. Yeah, it was compulsory to use dripper systems.
I've forgotten that those years even existed.
But so did I. I've forgotten COVID, and it was 6 months ago.
Well,
but I much prefer, and I'm putting them in. I'm reinstating spray systems,
right?
Because foliar spray is really important to kick out bugs and insects and fungus and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. But you just get much more coverage in 8 minutes than you would running an irrigation system for 2 hours.
I mean, there's pros and cons to everything, but I have found as well that it's so hard to diagnose issues with dripper systems.
You don't know where a split is. You don't know where a break is. You don't know what a dry area is, where a wet area is. The other thing is getting back to feeding and fertilising and composting gardens. I worked in England for a long time, and I would tell some of my gardens over there, my clients over there, that we don't till over gardens. Every year they're tilling over their garden. They're turning, they're double digging, they're adding additives and compost and, fresh manures and things for the life of the soil, which is so important. But in the last, say, 20 to 30 years in Melbourne gardens, I don't know what it's like in other states, soil treatment isn't really a thing that is done. And we really, with a dripper system, how can you fork it over? Unless you bring it all up, fork it over and then lay it again. This is another thing that just drives me nuts, because after this heavy pruning segment that we're going through at the moment, we'll be feeding and mulching all of our gardens. And I don't mulch, we call it KFC or McDonald's mulch. I don't use sort of that tan marky mulch. I think that's
the red stuff.
That's not mulch.
What? You don't like
that's trash. I use more of a shore crop or a compost or a mushroom compost or something that's going to add to the soil. Suppression of weeds and keeping water in the ground isn't as important to me as improving soil quality and the map of the soil. So doing that, I need to get back to spray systems so I can till over the soil and get it in.
Right, Lawn Culture Australia, I told you about them before, but this is a new and exclusive group launching on June the 1st. What is it involving? Well, if you are a member, you get access to weekly and monthly prizes. These are great things like cylinder mowers, rotary mowers, aerators, detachers, and these we're talking about reputable brands here, not something random off the internet. But not only do you get access to those prizes, well, obviously you're part of a great community, like-minded people. You also get access to personalised education, events like our Hunter Valley event, where they are the name brand sponsor for the event, and also discounts with partner brands on tools and products and things like that. Another benefit, though, is that they're giving back to Grassroots Sports Club. You can see more information on their website. If this is something that you're interested in, jump on the link below, sign up. I'm really excited by it. And if nothing else, I'll see you at their event in the Hunter Valley with us. Recently, I made a small business course called the Aussie Green Biz Mastery Course. It's for people who are starting out in the industry or who have been in maybe for a year or two, and they're really good at the gardening side, but they struggle on the business side. There's 47 lessons that cover everything from how to get great clients to how to work out your pricing, how to work out a system that's efficient, and ultimately set up a business that is going to be successful. Essentially what I did is I thought about myself as a 19-year-old. And I thought, looking back when I started my business, what would I tell my 19-year-old self to help him avoid all the stupid mistakes that I ended up making and have success in a much quicker time frame? If you know somebody who wants to start a business, it's made for them. If you're struggling in your business, you love the industry, and you want a successful business, this is made for you. We recently added the option as well to break down the payment over 4 months, so it makes it a little bit more affordable for those who are just starting out. The course is called the Aussie Green Biz Mastery course. For more information, follow the link. You've started me on something I've been thinking about, which I was planning to talk about. Mulching.
Yeah.
There was, if you go to your classic KFC drive-through, which I spend a lot of time in,
You get painted mulch.
so they have a lot of space in between their plants.
Yes.
And then you have this ugly bare soil.
Yes.
And then you go, oh, you should mulch it.
Yes.
You mulch it every year.
Yeah.
Comes a point where you go, well, why wouldn't you just plant it full of cat?
Plant ground cover. Ground cover is the best mulch.
Yeah. Or something even that if you were like, okay, we say we're tight on budget.
Yeah.
You know, maybe your first year.
Yeah.
You put everything in, and you just get, I don't know, some sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Tube stock or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
Tight
And you mass plant some tube stock.
And then you mulch that year because otherwise it's bare soil. Okay, I understand.
Yeah, within 2 years you'd have no weeds and you'd have a much better looking garden than. Yeah.
And there's certain plants, like, people think hedges are high maintenance. Certain hedges are high maintenance.
Sure.
But it's actually really easy to cut a hedge that's already been cut. If you know what you're doing, you know, and it's just like you're going over it, say, once a month.
And a lot of people don't cut hedges at the right time. Well, home gardeners don't, you know. So if you're cutting them when they're supposed to be cut or when they need to be cut, you can get a life out of not cutting to the next point.
Well, because I think going in the whole technical side, I'm just keep it as simple as possible. What would you prefer to do? An hour of hedging or an hour of weeding?
Yeah, well, that's right.
And to be honest, you get a lot more. Sometimes when you get those tiny little ones come through and you spend 15 minutes in 10 square centimetres pulling out these things.
Yeah, for sure.
And you're not even getting the roots because they're all breaking and it's just frustrating.
Yeah.
Whereas like a clean hedge. And so I've been thinking about this. I'm like, I've just been doing this service where the clients come to me and going, oh, yeah, we'd like to mulch. Okay, no worries, mulch. But I understand you have mulch before.
Yeah.
Blah, blah.
Yeah.
I wonder what I could do for the same price.
Yeah.
And over a long period of time, be like, I said, spending $500 on this or whatever the number is. Okay, what can I do with $500 a plant?
Yeah, for sure.
And then where would that be in a year and a half?
Yeah, it's a lot about education. People, that's something that people don't understand or can't particularly grasp. That, you know, the open areas of the garden, that's the reason why you are getting weeds, because of that open soil map. And it's just, basically, if seed lands. The other thing is that mulch, actually, a lot of seeds and a lot of weeds are brought in with. That's why I'm really strict on my supplier of soils and mulches, because we've had gardens where onion weed's a big one, where you'll mulch the garden and sure enough, halfway through spring, you get an invasive weed come through and you go, where did that come from? And it's usually from a mulch supplier. So we're really strict on our supplier of mulch and on where we get it from.
Do you have a recommendation here?
Fulton's. Yeah, they've got 4 or 5 bases around Melbourne. They're the only people I use. I've been using them for the last, 11 years of my business. And then the mob that I used to work for before us, we used Fulton's, and I've got a really good relationship with them. Yeah. So they'll love the shout out.
Yeah.
But they're really strict on their suppliers, and if I tell them that something's come in, they'll pick up on it and they'll
look into
do anything that they can do to rectify and make sure that it doesn't happen again.
One thing I wanted to ask you about, so you're doing now, I think, the type of work that just about every single gardener would want to do, right? If you're starting out, let's say you go back to being 20.
Yeah.
And you're 20 today.
God, I'd love to do that. Yeah.
You're talking to the 20-year-old Will.
Yeah.
What would you tell them to fast track to get to the page, quite what you're doing now?
Bloody good question. I would. When I first started, to answer your question, I'm going to go around, go around the back way. When I first started, I did a lot of work overseas. I moved overseas for 3 or 4 years, something like that. And I did a lot of amazing gardens over there. I was incredibly lucky to do. huge estate gardens in the country. I worked in Hampstead Heath and St John's Wood in London and did some incredible gardens there. And I'd say the big advice is when you're starting out, make sure that you do the smaller jobs as well as you do the big ones, because you never know where that small 1 hour cleanup, leaf litter job, blowdown is going to lead to. Working in the right areas is really important, and I come from Stonington, so I'm very well attuned to how Stonington clients want to be treated. But definitely working on the real relationship with the client, but doing the smaller jobs the way in which you do the big ones. Don't concentrate on the amount of money you're going to earn from it, or how what the size of the scope of the garden or anything like that. One of my clients when I first started out was this little old lady round the corner here, but I was there for about an hour and a half, and all I was doing was just clearing some pots from her veranda and blowing out her driveway. She was an 85-year-old woman, and she was sweet as punch. But I had a cup of tea with her at the end, sat down, had a bit of a chat, niceties, and then that small, $60 job or whatever it was back then led on to 20 big gardens, small gardens, amazing jobs that I had. And I thought back about it not long ago, and I thought, how many jobs have I got off that one veranda clean out? And I could have gone, actually, I'd rather do this huge thing than this small job. But I'd say that's one big tip. And work in the areas where you want to work. I don't want to work in Bayside. And I don't really particularly like the gardens that are there, or the style, or the sort of the fashion of it all. So I concentrate. I only take really, jobs in Stonington or Toorak or Armidale or Hawthorne, Camberwell, all that sort of stuff, because I like the style of gardens. I've done a lot of research. I've got 500 books inside of I know what I like, and I know what my clients like, and I just sort of fit it to suit their particular style.
I think that some of them sensing this, which is probably undervalued, is I've found that I am really smart in certain specific zones of gardening, because that's where my joy, my passion, and my excitement is. Yeah. And then you start to stretch me out, and I'm like, I still like it, but I feel less confident, I feel less comfortable. Yeah. And they're the jobs that ultimately I'm going to make mistakes on. Yeah. And you told me before we started recording that you are blessed to be in a position where you don't take on a garden if you don't enjoy it. And but even what you just done there is a step back and saying, well, these are the areas that I like and I'm good in. Yeah. And then I think what that's going to do is naturally create good word of mouth, because you're in your element. You're in the zone that you're in. Yeah. It's like putting someone who's great at swimming and being like, oh, how about you go play some, I don't know, cricket? Yeah. And like, well, you're athletic, so probably something transfers, but ultimately you got him way better in the pool. Yeah. And I mean, I think working in the same area, I've never advertised, ever. I think I did a letter drop of 500 letters when I first started out, and I had the wrong email address on them. I remember going to Officeworks and getting 1,000 printed, and I'd spent so much time on this cover letter, and I brought it home, and I was really excited. I got a few mates, I said, I'll buy you a 6-pack if, you go around Hawthorne or Armidale or Melbourne or whatever, and just do 5 or 6 streets. Do the Millionaires Row, do that street, this street. And I said, you're here, and you're here, and you're here. And we all hopped in the car, and one of my best friends, Nick, said to me, Gibbo, there's a spelling mistake on it. And so I sat there with a Sharpie, doing every single one. I think I did about 100, and we did 100 letter drops and went to the pub. But I didn't get one call. I didn't get one call from that letter. Well, was the phone number right? Yeah, the phone number was correct. It was just the email address that was on. But I think word of mouth in this industry is the most important thing you can do. You've got to do every single job like it's your last or your first. You've got, and that one job will doing a good job will give you 2 more, right? Doing a bad job will lose you 5. So I think it's really important that you keep a standard and you be really strict with yourself of making sure that you literally do all those 1%ers.
I get so much feedback sometimes that they go, "Oh, we noticed that you lifted the doormat and did that, or you filled up the dog's bowl, or you spent that last 5 minutes of the job really sort of hosing down the drive, or you did the gutters when I didn't ask you to." Just small things like that will justify your price and will get you repeat business, and will mean that when they go, "Oh, your garden looks beautiful," and they go, "I've got this guy called Will. He's got an amazing, good-looking dog. His staff are fantastic.
Yeah.
He's reliable. I'm not the most reliable. Sometimes I go, 'Oh, can we come tomorrow instead of today?' That's just the nature of the business." But just doing those things will mean that you get repeat business, and that word of mouth will happen naturally. I've never put an ad out in the paper. I've never done another letter drop. I've never gone to Officeworks to print more cover letters. I think it's just all word of mouth.
After your first one, you probably been nervous.
No. No, I don't give Officeworks any more money than I need.
So I reckon people with great business strategies just take all the emails very similar to Will's.
Yeah.
And at one point, you might want to land on one of his shoulders.
Yeah. There's another tip for a new person coming into the industry. And I was at a mate's farm when I was probably 2 years in to running the business, and I was having real problems chasing invoices.
Yep.
And one of the best tips that I've ever got was, and I hope some of my clients aren't watching this now, but start an email address that is Humphrey@WillGibsonGardens. I'm Humphrey.
Yep.
So Humphrey doesn't actually exist, but it's not Will at Will Gibson Gardens. And let them send the invoice, because they can be an arsehole. They can be strict. They can be quite forceful. They can be like, "Well, prompt payment needed." But if I do it, because I was doing, I really need this invoice, paid, and right? And then I'd get to the garden for the next maintenance visit, and they'd go, "So sorry that I didn't, that we haven't paid that," and it makes this awkward sort of. Whereas now I can go, mine's Sally, not Sophie, and I go, "Sophie at Will Gibson Gardens." Sophie doesn't exist.
Sophie is a bitch.
Yeah, Sophie's a real bitch. She don't puck with Sophie because, and I go,
she's got that mean glare.
Yeah, but now I go to clients and they go, "Oh, so sorry, I haven't paid the invoice," and I go, "Oh, I'm just the gardener. I'm terrible with budgeting. I'm terrible with invoices. I just give it to Sophie."
Yeah,
and they go, "Oh, great." And then I know that if I get online, it just detaches yourself from chasing the invoices. That makes it less personal, because I don't want it to affect my relationship with the client, which is so important.
Yeah.
That's all I've got is my relationship with the garden, my relationship with my staff, and my relationship with the clients. And if something's broken in that triangle, then, and it can be as simple as a bill that's $150. They didn't pay for 4 weeks, and then you got this weird awkwardness when you go to the garden next and they haven't paid the last 3 or whatever, and then you can get home and you just get Sophie to do it.
Yeah.
It's the best advice. Don't be scared to ask your clients for those invoices to be paid, because you are owed what you are owed. Set the right, tone from the start, but also don't, to set up the other email, or even if it's admin or accounts at Will Gibson Gardens, then accounts at Will Gibson Gardens is the easiest way to do it.
Yeah.
Because it's not you, and you don't look desperate. You don't look like you're chasing money all around town. It looks professional. It's the easiest way to do it.
If you're going to a property, take inside your mind if you're going to go do a quote.
Yeah.
Right? Do you quote a fixed price? Do you quote an hourly rate? I don't even know what your hourly rate is, but I'm wanting to think of from a perspective of, again, we're talking to a new guy, a new girl in the industry.
Yeah.
Maybe someone who's got a lot of experience on the tools, not a lot of experience at quoting.
Mm-hmm.
I've found that when I was early on, I shot myself in the foot, not because I didn't want to do a good job, but I would say, for example, let's say I need to charge $100 an hour as a nice round number. And so I go, I'll do this job for $300.
Sure.
Majorly underestimate the time. I'm there for 7 hours.
Yeah.
And at the end, you start rushing. It's not actually, you might do a bad job, get a bad reputation. It wasn't because you didn't want to do the job.
Yeah.
You don't know how to quote.
I've underquoted. I used to, that was my biggest mistake at the start, was underquoting.
Yeah.
Because A, you want to get the job so bad.
Yeah.
So you think in your head, you go, if I've got a cheap price, I'm going to win the business, which is probably the opposite. If your price is high, it means that you've got respect for your work. You know the amount that you're happy with. You're going to do a better job because you're getting paid probably. But the other thing is you never rush. I was in gardens that I quoted $350 for. I know that I can only charge $350 for, but I've spent 7 hours in the garden.
Yeah.
It's your fault, that you haven't quoted or you've underquoted. Suck it up, do the job. Sure, next time learn from it. I think underquoting is probably the best lesson I've learnt. If I didn't underquote at the start, then I'd probably be way too expensive now. But I wouldn't learn those harsh lessons where I've done a little design or a courtyard garden. I've gone, right, $6,000, right? And then it's cost me $7,000 and I'm losing out. I'll never make that mistake again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't cheap out on the garden. Sometimes you can go back to the client and you go, look, completely unprofessional. You should know your price. But I think underquoting is all part of the journey.
Yep.
I think making mistakes early on is really important. Being late to that client, it's like, mate, I had to be at work half an hour ago. I'm late to a meeting. What are you doing? Like getting yelled at for the first time. You're never going to make that mistake again, or you'll lose the client. Not getting that quote in on time. And you go, so sorry, I've had a busy week. I'm notorious for it. I still do it. Whereas, I had a busy week. I'm sorry, I knew I'd get that thing to you. The amount of times where clients have turned around and gone, oh, we're going to go elsewhere. That's, I'm getting better at it, but those mistakes still happen. It's that constant juggle of running a small business.
If you're wanting to upgrade your lawn care this season, jump on today's sponsor, The Lawn Shed. Lawn Shed stock a full range of everything you need for great lawn care, from fertilizers to wetting agents to soil amendments to pre-emergent, post-emergent, plant growth regulators, everything that you could need. Their products are actually the products used by stadiums across the country. I know, I've seen them in the sheds there when I've done tours. My opinion has always been that if you're going to charge for a service, use the best quality stuff you can get. So jump on The Lawn Shed today, sign up for a trade account, and tell them that you heard about their services through the podcast. Thank you so much for supporting Lawn Shed.
But in answer to your question, going in, it depends on the work. So if it's a maintenance job,
let's go with maintenance, because a lot of people who listen to this would resonate with it. Let's say you've got some garden beds that you got some hedges and maybe some other sort of, not super complex, but things to do, deadheading here and there or something like that.
Yeah.
A lawn, maybe there's some pathways to go down, all sorts of stuff.
The way I do it is I'll walk in and have a chat to the client and really try and scope their wants and needs from that particular garden. You can have the same garden with two different types of clients and their wants and needs will be completely different. You've really got to listen to what they want. If they're happy for you to spend as many hours as it takes in the garden to get it to that particular standard, that's one client. Or I just need a little basic cleanup and these are the areas I want you to concentrate on. They're probably the two clients that you're most... But what I try and do when I'm quoting is go, look, the initial visit or two, we are going to really get into the garden. And it means that you can spend a lot of time getting to the garden back to a standard that both you and the client are going to be happy with. So make those two, or the first big visit, or the two first big visits, the big ones where they get the big bill. And then say to them, we can keep it at that standard, therefore moving on.
Yeah.
So it'll be a lot cheaper moving on. Sure, you get that full whack at the start, where it's a full day or a full 2 days where we need to heavily prune, do the hedges, do the weeding. We're going to mulch that area. We're going to do your drive. We'll high pressure hose that. Do it all. So A, they get to see your full scope of work. B, they see big change and you're not sending them a bill with little to nothing done. But also to keep it at a standard. Once you get that garden up to standard, just keeping it there every month is going to be a lot cheaper moving forward than you saying, right, the first initial visit's going to be 500 and then we're going to do 500 and then we're going to do 500. And you're sort of swimming upstream from the start.
I get it, because you're 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Yeah.
You kind of get a little bit more untidy that month. And you'll make progress, but I guess you're saying that people, I guess they called you because they wanted something now.
Take the big chunk out of it first. And the other thing is spending. I'll be very surprised if there's any gardener out there that can walk into a garden and within half an hour know what that garden needs. So I'll explain that. Spending that, if you get that initial big day of maintenance in a garden that needs a lot of work, you've been called from a client, they said, look, the garden's gone on top of me, spring's around the corner, we really want a big cleanup and we want a maintenance schedule, we want something moving forward. A lot of clients will go, oh, I think they're going to cost between this and this. Go in and say, look, this is what we need to do. And walk around the garden, have a walk around with the client first, and then say, I just need half an hour, and then get your clipboard out and walk around and note every single thing that you could possibly do in that garden. Then I go home and I quote. Yeah. And I say, this is what the garden needs. I'm quite confident with my quotes. I say, to get the garden to a standard I think you're going to be happy with, this is what needs, and there'll be 100 items on it. And I'll say, to get this standard, because moving forward we can keep it at a lower price if we get this garden to a standard we're both happy with, then all these tasks need to be sorted out. And they'll sit at home and read the quote and go, oh, I didn't even think of that. Oh my God, there is quite a lot of work to do in this garden. Now that initial quote doesn't seem.
You've given them a lot of context.
The worst thing you can possibly do when you're sending an invoice or a quote is not itemise your time. Right. If you just say, look, to garden cleanup, high pressure hosing, general weeding, general maintenance throughout, they're not gardeners, they're homeowners. So if you can say, especially using botanical names, Strelitzia grandiflora needs to be deadheaded, Westringia fruticosa needs to be bald and clipped, liquid feeding all pots, granular feeding lawn, make it so that every single thing. I do the same thing with all my employees, is when they get to the end of the job, one blows down the property and packs up the ute, the other one writes the job sheet.
Yep.
And I'm really big on writing every single thing we've done. That leaf was put into that bin. It's not as, but it's because if they get the bill and you've just gone general maintenance throughout, blow down property and liquid fertilised pots, they're going to go, $700? What?
Yeah.
Right? Whereas if you can go, dang, bang, 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 the guy or the person paying the bill will go, okay, well that's a bit more than I expected, but look at this list of things that we did.
Yeah.
And it's just giving our employees, my business, that we're not taking the piss. We did all those things.
Yeah.
And we're noting it because our time needs to be, we need to show what we've actually done. And I think that's one of the big lessons is quoting or invoicing, make sure that absolutely everything is on the list.
Yeah.
Because it just justifies the cost.
Genius, I was coming to mind of that. I think people who are gardeners kind of mistake what their job really is. Because you go, my job is to cut a lawn. To a degree, yes. But I believe that the fundamental underneath it is your job is to give your clients free time and peace of mind.
Sure.
And there's some people out there, and the way you do that is you happen to do it through cutting a lawn, right? The McDonald's person happens to do it through making...
Yeah.
And we've definitely struggled with that in the past, especially with employees, to go like, yeah, you might have ticked the boxes on that task was complete, but if communication is not great, the peace of mind's not there.
Yeah.
The communication, especially someone who's really busy, especially this time of year, you leave in the dark, come back in the dark.
Yeah.
You might see it 5 days later on the weekend, and it might have grown a little bit,
sure.
and you're like, what really happens? Or, like, the classic is like, you get all your autumn leaves fall down, you rake them all up, go away, and by the afternoon, half of them are back.
Yeah, for sure. Streets. Yeah, we've gone to gardens for 3 or 4 hours, and all we've done is leaf collection.
Yeah.
And then, the husband will come home, or the wife will come home, however the invoice payer is, she'll come home, or they'll come home and go, well, what did they do today? So I always say those leaf collection, days, always do something else that they can see. They always make a big difference, and lawns are a big one. Now, people don't have the time, but I always come back to, we're not garden cleaners. There's an actual art form to it, and there's education behind it, there's knowledge behind it, and if the client can do it, by all means do it. But we're hired to do those 1%ers for garden health, to make sure things are growing. It's up to us. If we're sending them bills, the garden needs to look $100. It needs to look like the absolute bee's knees every single time. It has to. And that's why we're really big on 1%ers, doing those tiny tasks. If something's sick, I'll absolutely kill myself to try and work out exactly what's happening, diagnose it, and fix it. Yeah, it has to be done.
If you're out of the tools,
Yeah.
what is the job that you love the most?
Depends what mood I'm in.
Angry? Hacking away at something.
Angry, I need something...
With a chainsaw.
No, like mulching, feeding,
Okay.
something heavy lifting.
Right.
If I'm in a real meditative state, topiary every single time. Getting that fine cut on a hedge, getting a good cut on a ball is just, there's nothing better. I really love weeding.
Yeah.
I really love if a big stone driveway needs to be hand weeded. We are steering away from using sprays because I think hand weeding wins every time if you can get the root out of it. B, the client's paying for you to come and spray, and then they've got to wait 2 weeks to watch this weed slowly die off, and then you basically got to blow it off or break it up anyway. But I love, a good driveway of weeds, and I'll just start, and although it's time consuming, sure, so it depends on the client, but I'll start and I'll do the whole thing, and I love that turnaround at the end and seeing what you've done. That's one of my big attractions to what I do, is that turnaround at the end.
Yeah.
The blowing the leaves, raking them up, then mowing, doing the edges properly, doing all that. It's just that turn at the end and seeing the difference.
Did you really not look for a while?
Yeah, for sure. Because you go, and it doesn't matter the task. It's making that difference. And I get that every day.
Yeah.
Every job, I get to do that. What a privilege. I've got mates that work in finance.
Yeah, exactly.
They're on a computer the whole day. They don't get that. They don't get that elation, and it can be as simple as blowing a driveway of leaves, raking them up and putting them in the bin or putting them into compost. You turn around at the end, and you did that today. Even if you had the shittest day, and it was raining, and it was cold, and you can't feel your hands, and your feet are cold, and you've got wet socks and all that sort of stuff. You get home, you're having a fight with the missus, the kids are screaming, Humphrey shat himself in the car, whatever it is.
Has he done that?
No, yes.
I thought that was
He
a
wouldn't
story,
be here if he did. But you get home and you know that you achieved something, and it's really important for me. It sounds silly, but human beings have been doing this since the dawn of time.
Yeah.
And I said before when we first started this, and I'm really house proud, because I think you turn around, and if your house is clean, you've got to clean a mind. If your garden's clean and you've done a good job, you've got to clean it. Like it is. I've turned up to work in the worst mood, made sure that I've done a really good job and done everything I possibly can do, and I swear to God, I'm leaving that garden in a better mood than when I arrived. I do this industry because A, I enjoy it, but B, because of my mental health. I need my job to maintain happiness. I'm not always happy, but far from it. But one of the main reasons I love my job is because I get that satisfaction from it.
Yeah.
I have pride in it, but I also make sure that I'm doing the best possible job I can, because I want that turnaround effect. What a difference I've made. What a difference my boys have made. Or,
Yeah. I don't think people understand that one even more story.
No.
I think that there's this very strange thing that I talk to so many contractors. Even last night, there was a few people just starting out their business. Yes, one guy I can remember who was 2 months in, one girl who quit her job the day before.
Yeah.
And that day was their first day on her own.
Yeah.
And you talk to these people, and you could choose whatever you wanted. And a lot of these guys, girls, they're going from mining, or they're going from maybe finance or whatever it is, right? And they've got, I hate the culture or the type of work, the office, the sitting in a chair.
Yeah.
And I will take $40,000 a year less or whatever it is.
Yeah.
to pull out weeds.
Yeah.
And one of the things is people don't understand it, but then they're saying people will watch your video.
Yeah, for
And they'll watch Tim the Lawnmower Man do overgrown grass.
Definitely.
And they'll watch somebody else, whoever it is, doing something in this industry.
Yeah.
They go, oh, well, that's very satisfying to watch. And it's like, well, when you do it, it's pretty good.
Even more satisfying to do.
Yeah.
I mean, people, everyone's cleaned out their closet. Everyone's folded their clothes and done that big every year cull of the clothes they don't wear anymore. I did it on the weekend. The reason I'm bringing it up is because I'm trying to relate it back to a non-gardener. What satisfaction we get every day is when you go through your closet and you chuck out all that stuff and what's that girl's name on Netflix, Maria Kondo, right? If you do that and you fold it all and you go, that satisfaction that you get from turning around at the end and seeing everything beautifully folded, or cleaning your kitchen or cleaning out the cutlery drawer or cleaning the fridge or whatever it is, that's what I just did for 2 hours, and look at the satisfaction I'm getting by it. That is what we get every single time we cut a big ficus hedge, or I cut a beautiful ball, or I mow a lawn, or I blow a driveway, or I weed that path or whatever. I'm getting that every single time. And if you do it over and over and over again, you can do it quicker, you can do it better, you work out ways in which you can fast track and do it more efficiently, and you're charging for it. It's my job. I bet, as you said before, that the finance guy that's on 300 a year, right, he's going to have a heart attack at 50. He's stressed out of his brain. He's pale as anything. He sweats. He's unfit, because he hates his job. And he's coming home. He's got to work in the dark, coming home in the dark. He's going to sacrifice that, or part of his pay, to come and be a gardener. He's had enough. And he goes, I'm willing to sacrifice 150 a year to then be a gardener. If you're good at it, you'll make it. If you enjoy what you do, you'll make the 300. You'll love doing it. That's the thing. If you've got passion in what you do, you'll get the work.
I also feel like I talk to a lot of FIFO people, because that's a lot of people in Perth, right? A lot of our clients, and I see what they're doing, and there's this interesting, what would you call it, balance that I see financially, where people will, let's say they want 150 on their FIFO job.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't hate it, but they get exhausted by it, and it's survivable. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
My next question, you got a client who's being, let's say, unreasonably grumpy.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you can win them over, or is it just time to move on?
It's half the job. Half the job is client liaison, is making sure your clients are happy. If you don't have a good relationship with your client, it doesn't matter what job you do in their garden. It's done from the start. So every client's different, and as you go in the industry and you get to, more time spent, and as you go along, you get more experience, you'll work out what that particular client's needs are. Some of my clients just want to have a gardener because it's a status symbol.
Right.
Some of them want to have the girls around to play bridge and look out, and there's, us 3 boys in their garden doing the lawns and whatnot. He'll do that every time.
Clothed or unclothed?
Yeah, always clothed. We're not pool boys. But it's working out their qualm. It's working out that relationship. I've had a client that, would be grumpy and always we wouldn't get along. And then I just worked out that what he wanted was just that level of detail on the lawns, or he wanted us to do the 1%ers, and we were basically doing things that he didn't particularly care about in the garden. Whereas he wanted, and as soon as that switched, or as soon as I had that, instead of just getting to his garden and starting work, I'd knock on the door and say, hey, is there anything in particular, or is there anything specific that you'd like us to do today? Have that first 10-minute chat with him. He's fine.
Yeah.
So it's working out exactly what their issue is and trying to rectify it. But tradies and particular consistent trades that come to your garden, whether or not you're pool, a window cleaner, a gardener, lawnskeeper, whatever it is, sometimes they like to take their grumps out on us, and you need to work out whether or not it's something you're doing, or whether or not they've just had a bad day and they're taking it out on you. Because they'd probably rather take it out on you than take it out inside, or do that. But in answer to your question, it's just trying to work out exactly what their wants and needs are and trying to rectify it. Have those hard conversations.
Yeah.
Is there anything that I could be doing to, is there any issues that you're having with us? We used to do surveys. We used to do once a year I'd send out surveys, but an old boss of mine said, I like the idea of surveys, but you give someone a survey and it gives them an excuse to start thinking of issues. So it's much better to have the conversation, I think, and try and keep up that relationship with the client week to week or fortnight to fortnight, or month to month, or whatever it is, however frequent you go into their house, making sure you're keeping that contact with the client. I think our industry's hindered somewhat by the cowboys in the industry that sort of come and do the mow and blow, the slash and dash. And I go, what? Shows me, I didn't do this again. All I wanted them to do was cut the roses or to weed that part of the tennis court or the back garden or whatever. And you skim over that and you do the easy jobs because you like doing the easy jobs, and then you leave and you sort of scatter away and then you chuck the invoice to them. And there's a lot of those cowboys out there. And I think having that chat with the client when you arrive and when you leave is really important. Having that knock on the door, is there anything specific you'd like us to do today? Is just showing care. And at the end of the day, it's their garden and they're your client. But also at the end saying, we're all done. And they go, oh, actually, there's this where I want it. Could you take this? Oh, and also we've taken... Oh, I got your mail from the letterbox. Like those tiny little things. Well, isn't Will or Nick or Harley or whoever works for me at the time, aren't they great? You know what he did today? He did this. Yeah. Or it's those little things. And if they're in a grump, then he's dropping. I've had clients before that I'm like, yeah. Okay, well, how's the week looking? On Monday's going to be good. I'm really looking forward to Tuesday. That garden's going to be amazing. Oh, I've got that hedge that I love doing on Wednesday. Thursday's going to be an absolute because I've got so-and-so that day.
Bloody Susie.
If you're not happy with going to Susie's and it's throwing your week and you're in the sauna the night before, you're out and you run on the Wednesday and you're fretting because you're going, oh, tomorrow's going to be such a nice all the day. Like, don't do it because you're going to hate it. You're never going to do the best job there. You're going to want to rush out and rush in or whatever. If you've got the work that you can switch the job over, or if you've got clients that are calling and you're too busy but you're hanging on to this client that you don't particularly like, drop it. Because you're going to be a lot happier. You're going to be looking forward to going to work. I think now that we're in this successful zone and we've got a lot of work on, and I've got too much work, being able to pick and choose my client, I know that sounds, like I'm not getting a big head, but I love that I can pick and choose the clients and the gardens that I like, and I'm going to do a much better job because of it.
I also think like those grumps, the Susie. Sorry, Susie's.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, it's just a Karen. That was the more.
Yeah. Like Karen's got enough slack, so let's change the name.
Susie will throw in there. Yeah. But those Susies, if they complain to you, they probably complain to their friends, which means that no one's really happy.
Yeah, and even if you do the best job possible, they're still probably going to complain.
Yeah, or the best thing is that they just won't say anything bad. Like the best. It's not, you're not going to get like, oh, that was a great job.
Yeah,
and I found this with employers as well, where it's like, if you're unhappy with the employee, that they're probably unhappy with the job.
Yeah.
And, it's easy when it's like you're a really, really bad fit. It's more difficult when it's kind of work.
Yeah.
And you both kind of don't like the situation, but you put up with it because you sort of need each other.
I just don't want, let's take Susie, for example. I don't have any clients called Susie, which is good. I have a Susan, which is amazing. Let's take Susie, for example. You don't want Susie going to her friends, even for no justified reason, bad mouth.
Yes.
And
that'd be the worst.
Yeah, it's so unfair because you've done everything. You've broken your back for Susie, and she's still upset because it's just the way she is. Then, and if you as a person doing your work and doing the best possible job you can don't feel appreciated, or you don't feel that your work is being appreciated, then don't do it. Have the confidence to say, nah, I'm better than that. I'm worth more than that. I've got more self-respect than that. I know I'm doing a good job. If you're not doing a good job, well then,
Yes,
that's a completely different story.
that's the assumption before the rest of
The
it.
assumption is that you're doing a good job. Then flick them. Yeah.
You reminded me of a bad memory I had from last year. They had this client with us for very long, and their lawn looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Hedges look pretty good. You know, they're not a massive budget client.
Yeah.
But for what they're doing, nice. Their next door neighbour goes, "Oh, we like what you're doing there, but you come work for us." The retic, irrigation, humidity, really problematic.
Yeah.
The problem for us was that we didn't quite know how bad it was to start with.
It wasn't irrigation, it was irritation.
And that's a good one.
Yeah, it is a good
Oh, mate. So they essentially what happened was a show home, and the front was landscaped professionally.
Yeah.
And the back was done professionally too, but the irrigation was the controller was on one side, and that had to go under a lot of concrete that already existed. So they did tap timers at the back, and they did this and that. I didn't realise, because you can't see everything, how much hodgepodge job it was.
Yeah. Nightmare.
So there's people, they got us on, and we just keep coming up with problem. And it's like, they're never massive, but it's like, here's $100 there, $200 here, $350 there. Then the controller broke.
Yeah.
And there's a guy that lives in this area that we subcontract some work to, and we said, mate, can you go change the controller? Sweet, did it, no worries, charging for it. Then one of their sprinklers gets broken, tried on, something like that. And so they get this dead patch. And we were there once a fortnight. I don't know if you're aware, and many listeners are, but on this previous summer, we had about 2 mil or less than 2 mil of rain in 7.5 months.
Yeah, Jesus.
Yeah, it was the driest, the hottest
Yeah.
summer. So 2 weeks of that water was like,
Yeah.
so that patch or that zone of the lawn was really struggling, very front bit of the lawn. A week or so from our visit, you know, so it must have been like we visited, it was fine. Maybe the sprinkler was broken around the time. You know, it might have technically been broken by us, but
Sure.
we're usually pretty good at that.
Yeah.
He does it. You know, we've got spare sprinklers. If you notice, just
do
screw it out. You know, like he's not someone who cuts corners like that. So anyway, we've been blamed for breaking the sprinkler, and you just go like whatever, you know. So I call up that guy I said who was in the area, and I said, look, mate, I need you to go fix this guy's sprinkler for me, because we're not there for another week and we're slammed and you're in the area. And this is the best case scenario. And Nate goes, well, I'm actually like around there now. Like I can swing the ass in this job. Yeah, if it's just a sprinkler.
Yeah.
And I was like, sweet. And anyway, so I messaged the guy back. I was like, oh, Nate should be there this afternoon. So Nate goes around, picks up the sprinkler, no worries. Guy cancelled us. And I was like, what? Anyways, we're still the next door neighbours. 2 months, 3 months later, the next door neighbours is still pumping, and theirs is looking rubbish.
Yeah.
And it's just like, yeah, anyways, I guess I'm venting to you.
Yeah, no, vent away.
You know, thank you for being my psychologist.
It's
But
fine.
it's frustrating because you just can't win some people. And the thing is that we didn't charge for that sprinkler.
Yeah.
Like, we said, Nate, just send us the invoice of that. And $30 each to do, I don't know what it is. But you get to a point
I guarantee it's got nothing to do with the dead patch in the lawn, or you know, there's something going on that you've just got to. After the experience, the amount of experience I've had in the gardens, and I've been around the business for a long time, there's human beings that you can't change. They're always going to be shitty. They're always going to take it out on someone else, and they're always going to be unhappy. And I can walk into a quote now and work out which ones aren't going to pay, which ones are going to be shitty, even if we do all the 1%ers who's not going to be happy with the work, who's going to expect more for paying less. And it's just experience. You just get, but I don't have time for, I do my job because I enjoy it, and it's relatively chill, and it's relatively stress-free.
Yeah.
I mean, the worst thing probably happened to you, that you get a dead patch and sprinkler goes, and then problems happen, and you're like, fuck, you have a stressful day. Nate's gone round, fixed the problem, you're still not appreciated, you've rectified, you've done everything you can do, you didn't charge for that time. See you later. You know, and you can have, that's where I come back to, you can have the exact same garden, 2 different clients, and the experience can be completely different.
Yep.
And the more time you spend doing what we do, the more you'll pick up on those little cues that oh, yeah. The worst is when you go to a consult. Let's say that you got a husband and wife team. She's a stay-at-home mum. He's at work most of the day. I'd go to a consult. I usually do my consults in the morning and in the afternoon. During the day, I'm in the gardens. But it's a 4:30 consult. You walk into the garden and you walk around with the wife. She goes, I really want to work on here. And you're getting along and you're forming a relationship and you're working out exactly. And you go, this is going to be a great job, right? Sure enough, the car pulls into the driveway. He gets out. He goes, oh, look, I could have done that myself. Right? That's the worst. I back out of those jobs so much because if he thinks that he can do it and he just doesn't have the time, then we're never going to be appreciated. He's always going to have issues paying the invoice. She's always going to be wanting us more hours and do more of this, but he's never. Those types of internal combat, so the things where you're trying to get in between, I always go to myself, right, I'm just going to deal with, we can't use Susie as a name, but let's use Annabelle, right? I'm always going to deal with Annabelle. I'm never going to deal with Brian.
Yeah.
So all the invoices are sent to Annabelle. Let her deal with Brian, right?
Yeah.
I always deal with the client that's got the most love for the garden and who's hiring you rather than, let's say Annabelle pays and she's not interested, but Brian really loves the garden. Switch it over, whatever. Always deal with the client that you're being employed by and who loves the garden, actually appreciates the work that you do.
Yeah.
If it's annoying every single time you send the invoice, or they're disputing every single time you leave, or they're always asking more for less, then I've got no interest in it.
There's this mythical creature in the garden industry. It's like a anti-hero.
Yeah.
He's called the last guy.
Right.
Have you heard about
No.
You go to the client, you go, we do this one. What did the last guy used to do?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Right, the last guy used to...
Where is he?
Well, where is he?
Yeah.
There's a reason why he was the last guy.
It's the unicorn.
And I'm certainly not going to be the next guy.
Yeah. I'm not going to be the next last guy.
No, because I'm rectifying all the last guy's issues that he had to the garden. I think the other thing that we're not really picking up on as well is that gardens get stale. Right?
Stale.
So if I've been doing the same garden for years and years and years and years, it's sometimes the relationship gets a little stale with the garden. And you either need to, this winter, let's do a big cutback and start working on that project that we've been talking about for years and years and years. Right? If you're just doing the same visit every fortnight for years and years and years, sometimes you need to, and I've done it before, it's not anything to do with the relationship or the love you've got for the client. It's good to see a bee in Melbourne. It's nothing to do with the relationship you've got with the client. Sometimes you just get over the garden. And I've found it much better to say to the client, hey, look, I think it's time that, maybe word it so that I've got way too much work on and I think you're going to be better. Yeah. I don't want to do this garden.
Listen here, Annabelle.
Instead of saying, Susie, I'm had enough. Right. So look, I think it's time to move on, and I've got other work, or I'm concentrating more on design than I am maintenance. And our maintenance, I really want to spend more time in the office and doing, designs or new gardens or whatever. Figure out a way in which you can clean cut that garden away from your schedule.
Do you ever contact somebody else in the industry and go, look, I like this, do you want to take on this garden for me?
Yeah, sometimes, especially because we're so busy and, we try, and so we got to the stage now where we're trying to figure out whether or not we want to do straight high-end maintenance or we want to do straight garden install and design.
Yeah, that's the problem.
So I don't think you can do both. I really don't.
Not with employees.
No.
Because we used to have a business, some context, we used to have business with around 10 or so employees.
Yeah.
And the more types of jobs we did, the more things went wrong.
Yeah.
And then the more we narrowed down the types of jobs we did, it's like easier to organise. We used to have this thing all the time. We do most of our work now is lawn maintenance packages.
Yeah.
And it would be like, the guy would be at the warehouse, and because he's doing, say, a top dressing job and he's doing a hedging job and he's doing some fertilisation, whenever, you organise all your hedging, your top dressing, and you forget your fertiliser.
Yeah.
and then you reschedule the fertilising job, and then something else happens. And yeah, if you simplified it, and you're like, okay, let's take the edging out, or even like we do a day for top dressing and that's it, you know, a fortnight, which is what we do now. It's like this type of day we do this type of work, this type of day, and it simplifies it. And I think people who are really good at being solo operators, once they start hiring people, that their brain works a certain way. They didn't drop those balls, but they hire somebody else, they start dropping the balls. They go, what's going wrong? I never used to make this mistake.
Two things happen. So when you know, maintenance is the beauty about maintenance and schedule maintenance, and whether or not you're doing packages or you're just doing monthly, fortnightly, joint visits or whatever, it's forecastable income.
Yeah.
You know, that's your bread and butter. You know pretty much what you're getting a fortnight or monthly. Doesn't matter how many staff you're taking on. You know that the hours charged is going to be, you know, more so than the hours, you know, to spend at work. But you can work it out. Right? As soon as you introduce new garden installs and you're taking commencement payments, deposits, progress payments, all this sort of stuff, and your cash flow's going in and out, and then you forget that you were supposed to be at Wilson on Tuesday because you've got this, you know, plant delivery and you needed all the boys to be on site at the new garden.
Oh, yeah.
It starts turning into this monster that you can't control. Now, I do it seasonally, so most of my garden installs design in the autumn, install in the winter. Then they come on as a maintenance scheduled client, and they go back into the pool of maintenance clients that we had. If I don't do it that way and I try and do new gardens all year round, then I shoot myself in the foot. You can seasonally, gardens are beautiful because there's always downtime in the winter, but there's always something to do. But that's the perfect time to do new gardens. Whereas in spring and the summer, there's not enough hours in the day for me to get around, or for us to get around and do all the garden maintenance that we've got. So I'm really strict on myself, and all the calls that are coming in for new gardens around now, I'm not available till next year. So I can design, I can consult, I can give you an idea or ballpark, but I can't attack it till next year because I know that I can't make sure that all my maintenance clients are being cared for. The jobs that I've got on, the big gardens I've got on, we've got sort of 5 or 6 for the rest of the year. They're not going to get as much attention as I would want them to. Having the ability to say no is scary at first because you're like, they're going to go elsewhere. I can guarantee 90% of them don't. I've never said to a client, yes. They'll contact me on Instagram or they'll email me and say, we really like the work you do. Can you come around and do a consult? I'll say, yes, I can. But I'm just letting you know now that we can't actually attack any work until so-and-so.
Yeah.
And it can be 6 months or a year even. And they'll go, well, we're happy to wait. Because it shows that you're busy.
Yeah. You're
valuable, you're busy. So that's always a good thing. If you said, yeah, I'll be there tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, when can you get it done? Next week. Right? Well, hold on. What about all the work you've got on? Oh, we don't. Right? So that's sort of
nobody wants us. Yeah.
That's the message that you're sending out. So you're going back to your question before about what advice would you give to a new up-and-comer. Having the ability to say no or not over-promising and under-delivering,
that's a big one.
Is a huge one.
Yeah.
I always used to over-promise. You know, I'll be there on Thursday. I've got a couple of jobs that day, but I reckon I can squeeze them in. You're never going to squeeze them in.
No, you're not.
You know? And then even if you do, it's going to be 4:30 in the afternoon. You're all going to be tired. Humphrey wants to go for a walk.
You forgot your salad screen.
Your
head's a bit burnt.
And you're never going to... And they're going, I would have rather you just come next week.
Yeah.
You know?
You rush it.
So...
I've done that plenty of times.
Yeah, it's saying
like my personal personality types. Like I don't mind the work, I don't mind a bit of hustle and grind, and
yeah,
I can fit in. Let's do it, you know.
Yeah.
And then two small things go wrong, and the inner grump comes out.
Oh yeah.
And you start rushing in traffic, on a trailer, and it's like, mate, I'm gonna go on dash cams on. You know,
I've got dash cams Australia.
Someone's gonna see me.
Yeah, I'm quite lucky that I haven't got road rage and I never really speed, but I've got it. Sophia, my missus, there's some of the moods I get home in. You know, well, what happened today? You know, and she's a nurse at Royal Children's. I mean, she deals with she deals with compared to me. Like the biggest problem I've got.
Bug on a tree.
Yeah. I planted a tree here when it should have been here. She just rolls her eyes and goes, "Well, go have a sauna, go for a run. You know, get out of my hair."
Yeah.
Like life's pretty good.
Listen to some.
Like, I don't have it's not the hardest job in the world. I've got it's fun, and it's, you got to keep on educating yourself, and there can be hard days. But you just got to remind yourself that we're in an industry where we're outside. Hopefully you're working on beautiful gardens. Hopefully you love what you do. I get to go around with my best mate, and I'll pinch myself sometimes. On a sunny day in spring, when it's 22 degrees, crisp air, sun's out, everything's flourishing, it's awesome. I work on amazing gardens, and I'm really proud of the business that I've managed to sort of build. But everyone has shit days, but you've just got to remind yourself that we're pretty lucky to know what we do.
It's a value that you can't measure with your accountant.
Oh, God, no. No, not so. This the ghost so from Will Gibson Gardens. But
right, well, I've got one more round of questions for you.
Sure.
If you're looking for an employee and you're saying you would like some help this spring.
Yep. Always need help in spring.
Always a good help, I guess.
Yes.
What do you look for in a employee? And I guess there's two angles to this. One is for people who are looking for employees. How do you help them find the right ones?
Mm-hmm.
Also, there might be people in here looking for work.
Yeah.
Being like,
yeah,
would love to.
Yeah, no, always need more. Especially in the spring and the summer. What do I look for in a good employee? It's not so much knowledge, garden knowledge. because I'll teach them the way I do things anyway. And gardens around here are quite specific, so I'm going to have to educate them that way. It's, a level of gusto that sort of they come to work keen and not on their phone all the time. And they're not doing it just because they've seen the pretty Instagram, right? Mm-hmm. And they've seen the beautiful videos shot on a beautiful sunny day and the flowers are out and everything's happening, because I can tell you that's one day out of 10. It's effort. And the willingness to put in that effort, and especially the willingness to do those 1%ers. The work ethic is the most important thing. Just to be keen to learn new things. I think that's another thing. And just the relationship that they can achieve with the clients, how good they are face to face, how they communicate is really important. I think that's 50% of the job, is how we communicate with our clients. So they're nice, face value, they're good, they're keen, but the work ethic's the most important thing. Their willingness. We don't work long hours. They come to me at 8 o'clock in the morning. We're not an early start. Most of my clients don't want you in the garden before 8:30 anyway. So we have half an hour in the morning setting up, making sure that we've got all the tools ready for the day. We might go past and fill up petrol tanks and whatever, and then we're in the garden by 8:30. And we're usually packing up about 3:34.
Yeah.
It can be hard physically, but most of the time you'll only get a couple of mulching days or a couple of feeding days where it's heavy taxing. And then you have rest days where you're doing sort of maintenance and stuff, and it's pretty easy on the body. So that way, I'm not looking for physical fitness. I'm not looking for someone that's got garden smarts.
It's you can teach them.
It's more work ethic, turning up on time, being reliable, and a consistent mood. There's nothing worse than an employee that's sort of a bit shitty now, and you don't know. Sometimes I have, guys. So we have two really good consistent guys at the moment that are full time, plus me, plus Humphrey. And then we have some casuals that come and go when we need them. But if I see one of my employees I come around the corner and they're on their phone and then they're gone, only a couple of chances. And it's because the client doesn't want to look out their kitchen window, paying money for someone to be on their phone. Yeah. Exactly. And someone that's keen, someone that's at the end of the day, they're not rakes, mower, in the car gone.
Yeah.
I want them to say, what do we need for tomorrow? Actually, I might go past the tip and get those wool packs. If they're making those decisions on them by themselves, or we store most of the tools here, and if I get home and the bins are crooked and there's one bin that's full of leaf litter still and they haven't been bothered to put it in the wool pack, or the blowers are just shoved into the corner there. If you get home from a big day in the gardens and they haven't shown that last little, I'm just going to sweep out the ute. Well, there's rubbish wrappers in one of the utes. We've got two utes. I've got my one, new one, whatever. fancy one. And then I've got my old workhorse. I love it because we can bash into light posts. We can, you scrape that corner, the muffler goes, do that. You don't care. You chuck wheelbarrows on. You're not precious about it. But that doesn't mean that I don't want my employees to show tools and the ute with respect. But I can very quickly pick up on what employees are just doing it for the cash and which employees do it because they actually like the game.
Yeah.
And if I see another banana bread wrapper, 7-Eleven banana bread wrapper on the footwell of the other ute, even though the other ute's a workhorse and I don't particularly care if it's clean or not, it just shows a certain level of self-respect.
Yeah.
It goes back to that, fact of being house proud, or the fact that I work on my garden at home because I like having a clean ute. Or you open up that irrigation box and the elbows are in with the tees and the clips are in with here and the 19mm clips are in with the 13mm clips, and you're like, last weekend I sat in front of the telly and I went through both those irrigation boxes and now they're fucked again. Those little things, as a boss, they're just red flags. That you just go, well, it just shows that they don't really care. And I'm constantly some people just don't feel that that's important, and they may be brilliant gardeners. And I have conversations with terrific employees that I've had in the past where they've sort of, yep, okay, and they've pulled up their socks and it's never been an issue. But you get those people that you go, oh, you don't actually, all you want to do is come work your 8 hours and then go home.
Yeah.
And that's not the business that I want to run. I want the boys to go, and I pay well, I pay on time, we do beautiful gardens. I think I'm a pretty good boss. I don't crack the shits. I understand when they smash the ute up or they break a tool or, they leave a beautiful pair of Ignus of fucking loppers in a garden and they can't find them anymore and they were beautifully hand-forged from, Japan. There's a trigger there.
Story.
Yeah, that's a story.
Isn't it? The banana bread something really happened.
The banana bread and so I went to shout out to Philip and Leah, and if you're from Melbourne and you haven't been there before, this isn't a sponsorship by any means, but it's the best store you've ever walked into. If you like handcrafted gardening tools, Philip and Leah on Gertrude Street in Fitzroy. Oh, it's gorgeous.
I wish I had more time. I'd go there tomorrow.
Yeah, you go there and it's, all the Japanese, all the Toshibas, all the, all those beautiful hand-forged secateurs, loppers, pruning shears. They've got all those. They're one of the only. They've got some beautiful little toolboxes, gardening aprons. I mean, it's really high-end stuff. But you don't go there if you haven't just been paid, because I can guarantee you're not walking out with any money in your pocket. And I went there and I thought, we had a couple of big jobs that had finished, and I hadn't been to the pub or out to dinner or whatever. So I was like, oh, I've got a little bit of cash. I'm going to treat myself and buy those beautiful moppers. And I said, the next morning, I took them to work and I said that they're mine. Usually it's free for all. Use what you need to use. I said, these are mine. Please be careful because they're very expensive. They're about $500. And I hadn't even stained the handle yet. I hadn't even oiled them up.
No.
And I handed them to one of my employees and I said, just be careful. And then I left the job. And then the next day I said, where are those loppers? And they scrounged around and they're like, no, I think they're definitely behind the seat, the other ute. And then I said, they're definitely not. I can just tell. So I went back to the job that they were at the day before, and they weren't there. And then I sort of said, and they're either the client's got them, which most of my clients probably call and say, but they're gone now, they're gone. And it's just so they may have been left, out the front. Someone's just pinched them or whatever. But it's little things like that where, I constantly look in the toolboxes. It's so frustrating when you get to a job and you can't find the tool that you need. So clean mind, clean toolbox, clean car, clean job. So I think, what do I look for? Work ethic, just those 1%ers as a boss that I don't care if they fuck up. I don't care, the mistakes are made all the time. That's just part and parcel of running your own business. You just need to suck it up and, no one's perfect. But if it's avoidable and they're just swimming upstream the whole time and making life difficult for you and them and other employees that are working with them, and not filling out timesheets correctly, or not keeping the ute clean, or not taking care of their tools. Like, simple stuff. It's not. I'm not looking for the best gardener because I can make him the best gardener. I'm looking for someone that's actually keen and got good work ethic.
Well, I think you find a few people.
Yeah, if anyone's out there that you
listening to this,
definitely email me. You've got my Instagram. Email Humphrey. You can work with Humphrey and Bain in beautiful gardens. But yeah, spring and summer, when it's boom time, if you want some work and you're keen and you think you've got what it takes, then certainly shoot me an email and I'll answer straight back. Maybe not straight back, but within the week I'll go back to.
Do you know what? Considering the other things before, I think similar emails he might already have locked those ones up too, just in case there's a typo.
Yeah. The email address is correct on my Instagram. I think
you learned that lesson.
I better check that. I don't check. The other thing is if any of the my obscene amount of Instagram followers are watching, I apologise if I haven't got it back to any of your DMs because I never check them. I think since going viral and all that stuff, it's just bombarded with.
But how many? I checked this morning, 278, I think.
Something like that.
278,000 or something.
Yeah, we get a lot of traction there. The views is sometimes it surprises me how quickly it goes up, and it only takes if you're looking to get a bigger following on Instagram, it's just keep busting out good content and keep a really good level of your content. Be strict with yourself. Work on the song choice, work on the multiple views and difference in content. Don't load the same thing up twice, all that sort of stuff. But it's a bit of fun. It gives me a lot of work, and I love doing it. I find it quite sort of therapeutic sitting down and watching myself do the gardens and editing. And
it's a different type of work.
It's a different type of work.
It's a fresh,
and it's my advertising. The amount of work I get from my Instagram,
it's
insane. But it's crazy. Having videos that have millions and millions and millions of views. It's
cutting edge.
Cutting edge.
Planting something.
So like my weeding and pulling leaf litter out of my garden at home, most of it's him. So I can't take all the credit.
He is the star.
He is the star of the show. He is incredible.
See the patience there.
That's exactly why he wants this podcast to wrap the fuck up, because he wants to go play with that at the park. But
well, mate.
No, it's been a pleasure. I really enjoyed it.
I've enjoyed it.
Thanks very much.
If only we didn't have camera issues.
I know. We'd be having beers right now and go to the pub. Yeah. But unfortunately, it's only, what is it?
I wanted to jump in the pool, mate.
Wednesday. Yeah, you don't want to, mate. No. It's very, very cold. It's full of possum shit. So.
But, mate, honestly, the podcast, I know that we're going to get a lot of great feedback from a lot of the small businesses who listen and go, that's so relatable. And sometimes you go online and you see these people who think it's unattainable. But I've been there.
I put up a post the other day celebrating 11 years, and I can't believe that I've been doing this for 11 years. And I sort of said at the end of the caption, I said, to anyone running a small business, it's all going to be okay, because you always have your ups and downs. And if I've said anything today that helps someone out there, keep going, or given some advice that sort of strikes a chord, then I'm very happy about it. It's been great. It's a good comeback.
It's been.
Yeah, awesome.
Everybody else, we'll see you in the next podcast.